Hello, YouTube. Hello on this beautiful Good Friday. The good weather is coming and then it's going to leave again. But let's enjoy it while we have it. I'm wearing my winter coat still just in case, girl, because you just never know. You know, April is a funny month. Tomorrow will be 82 degrees and the day after will be 67 or 61. So just be careful. Make sure you're wearing a jacket. Don't come outside with nothing on thinking, oh, nah. April, you gotta always have your jacket or coat with you. I still wear a coat every day because it's chilly. Like, it's 52 degrees right now. So it's not cold, but it's a little chilly. So for me, I don't need a scarf and a hat, but I'm ready. Okay, so I just wanted to talk briefly about the Golden Girls. And it's just funny how you watch something as a kid and then I watched it in my 20s on DVDs, and then they talking about social media, they're comparing her to J-Lo, and it's like, come on now, like let's keep it real. I'm gonna leave it at that. But I actually wanted to talk about the character of Blanche, and if you was a real fan, you would know that Blanche was a woman who struggled with relationships. She attracted men, but they did not value her. And I wanted to talk about that briefly because, you know, the one who actually had solid relationships was Dorothy. You know, and that's what makes the show so good, because they show you real life. And men don't necessarily, I guess in their world, Blanche would be considered as attractive. And as you could see, she would cry to her friends, which were Dorothy and Rose, and say, why does this always happen to me? I always get dumped. So Blanche got dumped most of the time. You know, a lot of these men did not like her. They did not value her. You know, she would just get thrown off to the side or whatever. So she wasn't all that. And then there's an episode where she's like, oh, you know, why should I bore you with my boring stories? Basically saying in her culture, or her being Southern, they drag a story. So a lot of the times she was just dragging it, you know. But Blanche was a very interesting character. When you on your spare time, those of you that have the time, it is a really good series because it really shows you the personalities. There's a lot of valuable lessons to learn. There's an episode of Rose where she gets a not so good report from the doctor, and she goes in on Blanche saying, oh, people like me don't get this, it's people like you. And it's like, that's the most ignorant thing you could say, because it's not even about that. If you sleep with somebody that's positive, then yeah, you could be exposed. So, you know, they talk about that and they get into that because Rose is very judgmental and ignorant. And that's a lot of people. You know, Rose is, you know, she's clearly special needs. You know, we all have a friend, at least one friend like that, that's just like do-do-do-do-do. But along with her personality, the dark side of her personality is that she's extremely judgmental to the point that it doesn't even make sense. So, and then they also have an episode where they go to a shrink, and the shrink is like, how do y'all even live together? Y'all are so different, you know. And it just shows you they wasn't really true friends. You know, they cared for each other and they were stuck together. But all these shows really prove to you shit is what it is. Which brings me to my next point. Today is Good Friday. And the ones that turned him in was his so-called homies. They turned him in. Yeah, so, you know, New York City, very loud. Somebody's blasting music. So I'm finally back on. Yeah, so it brings my point to Jesus he didn't have real friends. And on TV you see that over and over again with the show Girlfriends. I never really watched it. It was just like, I don't know what that was, but it was just not my favorite show. But my father used to watch it, and I remember like little things about it. They weren't real friends to each other. Then Moesha, I can't really say she was a true friend. She was to Hakeem, but Hakeem wasn't to her, as he betrayed her and kissed Niecy. You see that as when they get to college. And he didn't even like Niecy. So that was weird that happened. I mean, things do happen when you're that age, but the fact that that's like you've been trying to get with this girl and you're gonna kiss her best friend, that shows lack of loyalty and character. But and then her and Kim were frenemies. That's what you call frenemies, because they was always, and that happens in high school. Like, you always have that one person that's just around you just because, but they not really a friend. So in all these sitcoms, Golden Girls, Girlfriends, whether if it's urban or whatever, you see how people are. People really ain't shit, and the only thing that you see that's concrete is Family Matters. Or even Martin, the way he treats his friends is terrible. The way he treats Gina is terrible. But one thing that's certain is the love that he has for his mother, and vice versa. Even though he plays the part of his mom, but when it comes to family, you see that consistency. And it's true. And it's like, family could hurt you too, but at least they'll be there for the most part in the time of rough trouble. Now, if you're blessed to have good friends, like I've had good friends over the years, and like I've talked about previous former friends, that's when you find out your real friendships, when stuff hit the fan. But I just wanted y'all to dwell on that today, on this Good Friday, that Jesus knew that his homeboys wasn't down for him. He knew it, and we have to know it too. Just because he was Jesus, yes, he's all-knowing, but we have something inside of us too. It's called intuition and common sense. Know who your friends are. And that's the biggest lesson that Jesus could have ever taught us. And it's honestly my favorite Bible story, because Judas kissed him, and that same day he got arrested. And that's why they call it Holy Thursday. And today is Good Friday, because he died. But it's not just about the spiritual aspect, it's the natural too. Know who your friends are. Happy Good Friday.